It is the eve of 49ers versus Packers. Rod and I haven't talked for over a week, and we're back. We're going to preview this game and hopefully give some fans some good information so that they can sleep well tonight or have a good Saturday before the game in at Levi Stadium. Rod, what's going on?
Not much. I am super excited for us to be back in this position again. You know, as we'll see as we continue to talk, I'm very excited about this opportunity. Um, I think we are clearly the favorite in the. I don't think that's a controversial statement that we're a favorite in our conference to go through. Now, does that mean that we are guaranteed a spot in the conference championship? By no means, but I feel real good about um, our chances in this game. Not to say that I'm one who kind of believes that the Packers will make this closer than the line indicates, but I think ultimately we will prevail. So I'm excited.
So we got to watch a lot of football last week. Not great games, which kind of makes me wonder about this playoff scenario because it seems like the league is a little top heavy with some of these teams. But
Sure.
you did get Texans show out. They got to go into Baltimore this week. It's going to be rough. You got to see the Packers just upset the Cow. Like it almost made me wonder. Is like the regular season is so long, 17 games, and you can just have a team go into the other team's building and just demolish them. Like, what does that say about the regular season?
It's crazy. It really is. And the Packers are another example of that. I mean, they were pretty bad for the first three quarters of the season, and then they caught fire late. I mean, if you look at their splits, the last six games, it's like they're a completely different team. So like you say, I mean, what does that say about, you really have to look close because if you look in the aggregate at their stats, it can tell you a false story because the team that we are playing tomorrow is not the same team from weeks, let's say 1 through 8. They're just not. They're a much better football team than they were. So, like I say, when you look at their stats in the aggregate, a lot of that stuff you kind of have to throw out and really just look at the last six games. Excuse me.
It does seem it's really about playing well towards the end of the season more than anything else and getting hot at the right time because you look at Philadelphia, like they went from now, some people will say, oh, the analytics would say that they weren't really a 10-1 team. They were probably closer to like a 7-4 team. So be it. Still, I'll take 7-4 after 11
Mhm.
games.
Mhm.
But the last few weeks of the season, they look like a 500 football team and maybe
Yeah.
even less, which
Mhm.
is unfortunate for Philly because of this great season that they had last year. So yeah, I don't even know. It's like in some instances, I'm like, how do you make heads or tails of any of this? But you know, I guess it is more about just who had the best regular season record wise. It's really more about who had the best regular season near the end, who goes into the playoffs hot. And then you have this whole did you want to play last week or not? And the 49ers were happy to not have to play because hopefully that means Eric Armstead can play. Hopefully that means Dre Greenlaw is closer to playing than not. But at the same time, you see some of that. You see some of the teams with a little bit of momentum who look great, and you're like, oh man, they're coming in hot, and we may start off flat just because we didn't play. And Green Bay is one of those teams who are coming in hot.
That's true, but I think us and Baltimore, being super physical teams, I think we will benefit from having the week off, more so than some other teams might because of the style that we play. I think, if I given a choice of, momentum versus rest, I think I would prefer having these guys super fresh and ready to go out here and bang for another what 180 minutes. So I think that's what I would do. And it starts this week. I'm excited about this game because I don't, I tend to be a bit more pessimistic than most 49er fans. I like start off looking for ways that we could lose this game. And it's hard. It's hard to come up it's hard to really come up with like a plausible scenario where we lose, but it's one of those things like I forget. I listen to so many podcasts that I can't give credit to who said it, but it was they were talking about if you were going to come up with a path for the Packers, you'd go back and you look at the Cincinnati game,
Mm-hmm.
how they were able to ball control us, and Burrow was like on fire, and they held the ball and were scoring, and it was they were just really efficient. And again, we all know it's ad nauseum. We talk about the Niners getting behind and then coming back. Um, that's, I guess, the path, but I mean, they don't have Jamar Chase and they don't have T. Higgins and they don't have Joe Burrow. But, their guys, I mean, the thing about their guys that when you look at the Packers, I guess Watson is going to play. And of all those guys that they have, he's like the one who kind of projects as a true number one. But then those other guys, you can point to games this season where all of them, Dobbs, Wicks, and Reed, have all had big games. Well, Dobbs had one last week, so it's one of those things where Ward has done a good job of like taking their big piece off the board. But you look at guys like Reed and Dobbs and Wicks, and it's like you start looking at matchups like Lenore and Thomas, and then Oliver. Ugh, there is meat out there to be had, so it's going to be important for us to get the pass rush going, and put heat on Love. But he does such a good job, of escaping. I watched last week's game in full, but I hadn't watched him since whatever that last game they were on national TV. It was like week 5 or 6,
Mm-hmm.
and they stunk. I mean, it wasn't good. The talk really was around, is Jordan Love the answer? But some kind of switch has flipped in the past 6 weeks, and he looks really good now. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what we're able to do from a pass rush standpoint to heat him up and um, speed him up and get him to get him off his spot.
I have 3 questions for you, but also for the people who are watching this live. And I want to see those answers as well in our comments, and we'll talk about some of the things, because I've 3 questions that we'll use to kind of get through this preview. But before then, I was thinking about this before the games last week. You sort of look at paths, right? A lot of, when it comes to winning the Super Bowl, there's luck involved. There are matchups involved. And so I think the big worry for me was, man, if the Rams win this game, we could get them. And then all of a sudden, I didn't even think about the Packers. I didn't even think that they would possibly beat Dallas. So I was like, okay, best case scenario is we see the Bucs. Everything else is chalk. We see the Bucs first round. That is for the first round opponent, not necessarily the best thing for the actual playoffs. But then when the Packers handled the Cowboys, I was like, man, that 7th seed, I kind of feel like the 7th seed is better than at least 5-4, and the Rams were probably better than 5-4 as well. And so, it's just this luck of the draw of the tournament. And the Bucs, as well as they played against Philadelphia, I think we would have handled the Bucs pretty easily, and we should handle the Packers as well. But I would say for this week, the 7th seed is probably better than the 5th seed, and If you're looking at sort of matchups and if you're looking at, the luck of the draw, I don't think we got the luck of the draw when it came to that. I think the Packers are overall probably better than that 7th seed and where they sat in the tournament.
Yeah. I don't think it's ridiculous to say that the Rams were underseeded. I haven't done any real deep dive research, but it was kind of jarring to watch Sean McVay go into like a shell. He was like really, really conservative in that game. And I thought they were the better team.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Cooper Cup didn't really look right. It was really weird. Because I thought that they were, no disrespect to the Lions, I thought that the Rams were the fourth best team in the NFC. So I was fully expecting them to go in there and win because they were hot, and the Lions haven't been there, but I guess you can't. That was one thing that was all the talk of the pods was how um, loud and boisterous that Detroit home crowd was.
I mean, they've been waiting forever, so
Yeah,
they
and they
better
were
be.
they were fired up. They say. I mean, I know a few of the Rams. Baker was saying that a few of his former Rams teammates were telling him it's the loudest place they've ever played in. It was really hopping. So that's what they're expecting this week. They're expecting it to be, a real raucous environment. So yeah, and good for them. Like you said, they waited for a super long time, and it was good to see, all their legends come out and kind of get their flowers. Megatron and Barry Sanders, and you know, I'm a hip hop guy, so seeing Big Sean and Eminem out there was kind of cool. Yeah, all represent Detroit. That's good for them.
This just as an aside, and I'll make this quick. I am reading the biography of Jay Dilla. I'm not sure if you've read this one.
Hmm.
It is fantastic,
Yeah.
and just the idea behind Detroit and in that time frame from the sort of the mid to late 90s and early 2000s takes you back 25 years, man.
I'm telling you, man, he was truly an innovator. I mean, and that's a word that gets thrown around, but there, as far as hip hop goes, there's definitely a line of demarcation. There's before Dilla, and then there's after Dilla. It was, and that what I learned from that book is all the different people that he touched. I knew the highlights like
Yeah.
Common and whatnot, but I mean that whole Far Side scenario was interesting how that came about. But yeah, it's a great book. I mean, if it was one I try to read outside of my interest every once in a while. So even if you're not a hip hop fan, this would be one that I would recommend.
Yeah.
If you're trying to broaden your horizons, he was a really really interesting dude.
Not very. A lot of people, unless you are a really really big hip hop fan, you probably don't even really know who he is.
Hmm.
So that's also made it interesting. All right, let's hit the injury report before we get to those 3 questions. So for us, Cleveland Farrell, he is out. Dre Greenlaw is questionable, and Dre Greenlaw's injury scares me.
Hmm.
Achilles tendonitis, that doesn't sound great.
Yeah.
His whole thing is being able to roam the field side to side and make big plays. That does not. I'm sure they can, do as much as they can, fit the boot, tape it up, make it as good as possible. But my worry would be hurting it even worse for
Mhm.
next week. We got no more bye weeks after this
Right.
one.
Yeah, I was talking to my doctor, and I mean, obviously, she's not an orthopedist and she's a nephrologist, but she's a runner, and she says that type of injury is a stress injury, and it's not like some injuries are, and you hear it in football a lot. Well, it's not going to get any worse. Well, this is not the case with that. You really just need to rest it. There's really no way other than rest to heal it. And it's not one of those injuries. It's like she said, you're not guaranteed to tear it if you continue to play on it, but it's not going to get any better.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to get any better playing on it, and you can do more damage
Mm-hmm.
playing on it. So it's not one of those type of injuries where you hear all the time, well, it's all about pain management and it's not going to get any worse. Well, this definitely could get worse the more he plays on it. So I know they're going to be careful with him, but I know he wants to be out there. And he's important to us. So it's going to be interesting. And it's tricky at this time of year because, like you said, no, what next week is not guaranteed. But if you could somehow figure out how to limit his reps and get him through to the next two games, I'd rather have him in the Super Bowl. But it's hard to, there's no guarantee that we're gonna get to the Super Bowl. So yeah, it's a tricky situation for Kyle and the staff to because he's gonna be like, I want to play. What I
Yeah.
the feeling I get from Dre Greenlaw is that he's not trying to tap out. If there's any way that he could play, he's gonna be out there, even if it's not necessarily the most prudent thing in the world to do.
You know how in some of the old boxing movies like Rocky, you're getting ready for a fight. You
Hmm.
got the inspiration. Maybe you got a photo of your opponent in the mirror as you're shadow
Hmm.
boxing. I think Dre just has a photo of Big Dom from the Philly game. That's his
Yeah,
inspiration is Big Dom.
exactly.
That guy got me kicked out, man.
Yeah.
For Philly, I mean not for Philly, for Green Bay, Alexander questionable, the corner, Dylan questionable. He's got to be playing. Um, the linebacker who got hurt out for the game, McDuffie questionable, and how can the punter be questionable? Illness? He's got the coronavirus. What's going on? You can't get ill. This is the playoffs, man.
Right.
Like you just can't get sick. That's if I was him, I would have tried to figure out pay somebody to remove me from the injury report for that one, especially the punter, man. Nobody wants the punter to
Exactly.
be really. Where's Peyton? Where's Peyton Manning with the stupid kicker line? So everyone, no one's healthy, right? That's
Right.
part of the thing. Is this season is so long and it's a grind, and a lot of it is so based on luck. Which, in some instances, you can kind of say, "Gosh, if it's all about luck, then why are we paying and why are we watching and why are we, so many people buying Peacock to watch this Kansas City Chiefs playoff game?" That also is part of the charm, because if it can be about luck and you're a Green Bay Packers fan, you're like, "Hey, we're in this thing, until we're
Mhm.
out of it." So that is also the charm of the NFL, is because of the injuries and how crazy you could lose so many players and so many healthy. Like, I mean, the Niners, luckily they haven't lost a ton, but that they are starting a rookie
Mhm.
safety.
Yeah.
Hufanga is hurting, so and he's not coming back for the whole season. So there is that, but at the same time, some of these teams who they're like, yeah, like we have a chance, because there's a chance for everybody, as you saw by Houston and Green
Mhm.
Bay taking care of business. So that is why NFL, it really is king. Also,
As a short aside, I know there's a lot of chatter going on about Peacock. I, for one, would love to be able to buy NFL games a la carte like that because, I'm one who travels
yeah,
and I would rather, I end up buying the whole ticket or being stuck with like Dofu Sports. Ooh, sorry. I don't want to talk about streaming. I know that's frowned upon. But anyway, trying to watch when I'm out of market, it would be nice if I could pay $6 to watch a
yeah,
Niner game,
yeah.
legitimately, rather than paying the what $200 or $300, whatever it is
Shelvin knows.
for the
Shelvin's in the
whole
chat.
ticket.
Shelvin knows.
Yeah, I really this year it was like the first year NFL Plus had the red zone on there. And
Yeah,
when I wasn't watching Niners, that's fine for me to just be able to spin around
yeah.
and watch the games, watch the scores. That was perfect for me. So they're gonna be hard pressed to ever sell me the ticket again. But like I say, it was always convenient to have the ticket. Like when I'm in Vegas, sometimes the game that they have on is the Raiders. It's a local game, and not the Niners. And it's kind of tricky now in the casinos. They don't, a lot of those places don't even have the ticket anymore. They just, they're just broadcasting whatever the local game is. So back in the day, you could just go there and they'd have all the games on. But yeah, that's not the case. So for me, $6 is a small price to pay. I mean, I paid double that to go to the movies.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
if I could pay $6 to watch an out of market, when I'm out of market, watch a Niner game, I would definitely do that. But I know I'm like the minority in that. A lot of people are really got their underwear in a twist about having to pay to watch that game.
American Fiction, by the way. Go out of your way to see that in the theater if you get the
Oh,
chance.
really? Okay.
It's excellent. Okay, yeah. Here's question number 1 for our preview, and again, if people are watching and they want to chime in, I want to hear your answers as well. In your dream tonight, how do the 49ers win this game? What's the vision that you see when you go to sleep?
When I go to sleep, I see the Jimmy Garoppolo eight the 8 completion game. I hope Kyle just runs the ball down their throat. I hope Christian McCaffrey has 200 yards rushing. That would be my dream scenario, is that we run it and we run it and we run it and we run it and we don't stop running it, because there have been times when we've started off running it effectively and then just curiously we go away from it.
Yeah.
I just hope because in my humble estimation of this Packer team, if we do that and if we punch them in the mouth, there's nothing they can do to stop us. They will yield to us if we just commit to the run. I think it'll be an easy victory. And probably Christian will probably be out way before he gets to 200. But I think that we could have a huge rushing day tomorrow. So that would be my dream.
I'm with you because I envision it the same way. Though what I'd like to see as well, in addition, is that Green Bay maybe comes to the line a little bit more because we're running the ball down their throat, and it opens up a little bit of play action so we can get some distance in the game, second, third quarter. And then you just, kind of pull guys out and you try and save them, Big Trent, save Big Trent, and, save, and if you can really own the time clock, then your defense isn't on the field
Right.
all game long,
100%.
because we are going to have to play without Farrell. And so that means more Chase Young, and he has been able to be fresher because he doesn't have to play every down. More Randy Gregory, which who knows, that they may see Randy Gregory and go, oh, he's a sort of a little bit more one-dimensional than these other guys, and let's attack him with some of the run game. So that is what I would like to see as well. That is what I envision. And what it does is it just sets the tone, right? It sets the tone for how the 49ers play, and it doesn't give the other teams, if you do win this game, it doesn't give the other teams too much film on your passing game.
Right.
And you play very predictable, and you just kind of just tell all these teams, we're just here to just kick you right in the mouth and let's go. And I think that could be part of the psychology of this whole thing as well.
And I catch a lot of grief online about Brock, and I have full faith and confidence in Brock doing his thing. So this is not saying I want him to have 8 attempts, is not by any means a slight on him, because I have no doubt that he can process and go out there and perform and carve up this defense if that's what we need. But I just think, based on all the things that you just outlined, that if we can ball control them and keep our defense off the field, that's the best thing to do. Because what I don't want is with dudes like Rashawn Gary to be in obvious passing downs and teeing off on McKivitz and Burford and those guys. I don't want us to. I don't want Brock to be in third and long and have to. I, and I'm confident in him. I'm confident that he can navigate the pocket and he can get rid of the ball. He's demonstrated that he's very good at that. But I'm not as confident as you guys are. I am shook every time he gets hit. I don't because you know I don't want to see Sam Darnold. So anything that we can do to keep Brock healthy and upright for the rest of this run and get his ass off the field and get Darnold in there, that's what I'm an advocate for. Is I want to see Brock as little as possible in January. Like I want to get him to February, and then my hope looking forward if he gets there is then I hope Kyle just opens up the playbook. And I have to believe that there is some RPO stuff in there that we haven't seen. And that's where you empty the playbook in the Super Bowl. And I just think that I think Brock can run that stuff, and I think that he'd be effective running that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that in a one-off game like that, you don't want to run him like that, in a week 13 game against Cleveland or whatever. But in a Super Bowl, when it's all on the line, I think that, the running game with him could be an X factor. All the stuff they talked about, he had drawn up, way back when Trey was going to be the guy. I think Brock can run a lot of that stuff. I mean, he is sneaky athletic, and I think the dimension that adds to the offense, it just opens everything up. If they've got to think about that too, it's just it makes us pretty much damn near unstoppable. So,
there's a new QB at San Jose State by the name of Chubba Purdy.
I saw that.
And I don't know. I don't know what year he is, but in a few years, maybe the Niners draft him, and you run like this, like twin quarterback thing, and it's like, oh, is that Chubba? Is that Brock? Well, we gotta figure it out. But Kyle is not about those trick plays, but that would be kind of funny because those dudes. They're not dissimilar looking. They're kind of, and I'm be rooting for Chubba, man. That's my alma mater right there. I may even go to a couple games this year.
That's an interesting. There's got to be some NIL money involved with him coming this way, and then it's kind of interesting that I haven't really watched Cal or Stanford in the last several years, but I was kind of interested. Well, why he didn't. They're going to the ACC, and why not bigger schools? But
the other thing about this is, I think San Jose State's head coach, who kind of brought a little bit of prestige back to the program, I think he's gone. And he was also really helpful with the fundraising because San Jose State, their sports programs are pretty pathetic in that sense, and so it's kind of but Chubba's like you said, some NIL money, and also his brother is probably going to be pretty rich. So live in the same area.
I would imagine if they don't live together, they probably live pretty close, and then he gets the benefit of the NFL type training.
Well, Brock has shown he is completely fine with living with a roommate who is not his girlfriend. So
so that's cool. Good for them. I mean, if they want to do the bro thing, the college bro thing, that's cool. And Brock is close enough in age where that's not inappropriate. So that's good. That it'll be. That did that was a curious news blurb to come through. Yeah, I might go down there with you and watch one of those San Jose.
Yeah, no, that'd be fun. And the thing about Brock is I've read some stuff about how he's got a very, very specific bedtime. His whole process is after a certain amount of time, in the evening, he puts on these blue blocker glasses so that his eyes don't get strained. And it's no screens after X time. So he's very, very disciplined in making sure that he's prepared mind, body, and soul to play a game. And can you imagine next year we're in camp and Brock's just not having it? And Kyle's like, dude, what's going on? He's like, yeah, too many beer funnels with Chubba.
Because now, and again, that could be a stereotype, but I don't think Chubba is down with any of that. Chubba,
No.
that with a name like Chubba, I think he's a party animal. Is what I would think. I would think Chubba likes to party. So
that's someone's got to make a movie about that. The two brothers. Okay, let's go with number 2 here. If somehow Jerry Jones decided to switch bodies with Jed York and curse our team this weekend, what Dallas things happen that allow the Packers to stay in this ball game?
Again, I don't see. The biggest thing to me is like Brock. I mean, Dak kind of looked shook after. They did a real good job. Both of those. I've been trying to learn how to read defenses. And it was funny because this last game, that Dallas Packer game, a lot of the things me and my mentor was going over, you could see it on the screen, and they were doing a really good job. Both teams were doing a really good job of disguising where the leverage was going to be, and Dak just was not identifying it. And when he did identify where to go with the ball, in the first half, they were doing a great job of manning up on CeeDee Lamb. And so he just didn't have anywhere to go with the ball. And you could tell that it really made him uncomfortable. And that was the interesting adjustment in the second half, is that, they were just like, F it. We're just going to throw the ball to CD every single time. and we'll just see if they could stop him. And, they couldn't. I mean,
Yeah.
he is that type of dude, but if that was one thing, I just don't see, though. I don't know. I just don't see Brock being shook like that. He has, an irrational confidence almost. I guess that one game where he had all those picks, he kind of was the first time he ever really kind of showed, which, I mean, makes sense. You throw 3 picks,
Yeah.
you're gonna get kind of gun shy. But that's what I would see, is that somehow they're able to mix the coverages and get Brock confused. But Kyle does such a good job giving him all the answers, so that he doesn't get confused like that. Go here, go here, go here, or throw it away.
Yep.
It's not really. He's not really out there reading and guessing, trying to figure out. This offense kind of caters to him in that way, where it tells him where to go, and those guys are running those rub routes and those crossers, and they're giving him good windows to just if you just hit him, and he does a great job of that. So I don't know. It would be that they're able, that Joe Barry comes out of his slumber again, because I mean, he is an awful defensive coordinator, by the way. But last week his first half was great. He called a great game. But they tried to give it away at the end. But that would be my concern. Would be that Brock would, he wouldn't. The picture would be muddy for him, and he wouldn't be making the greatest of decisions.
My thought is something that you had actually kind of mentioned before. Like, Kyle comes out and he's like, man, Dallas threw for like almost 500 yards on these guys. We're letting it rip out of the gate. Like, we're going to show these guys that, we're going to attack all of these holes that Green Bay has. And we're going to show the world that Green Bay is way more of a paper tiger than folks think after this game. And because we've seen this happen during the season where they don't run the ball early, and it's like Kyle, the scripting of those early plays, and he sees something in the tape, and he's like, oh, we're just going to attack these guys downfield, boom, boom, boom. And then all of a sudden it's like drop pass, holding, you know, Brock, he's got to pump on that first read, and then he's kind of running out, and he's got to throw it away, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh
Ran
man,
out.
fourth down, and we got to kick it, and now we're playing defense.
We only ran a minute off the
Yeah,
clock.
exactly.
It's just it's all bad. It's all bad. That's why I mean, and you're probably right. I know you're right. We could very well put up 300 yards passing on this team, but I don't think that's the tone that we want to set. I think a 150-yard rushing game is really the type of tone that we want to set for everybody. We want Detroit and Tampa Bay to know that that's what this is going to be. And that's what you need to strap up and be ready, because that's what we're doing. We're coming to run the ball right down your throat, and we don't believe there's anything you could do to stop it. And with everybody but Baltimore, I think that's a fact. I don't think I don't think that there's anything Detroit can do to stop us. I don't think there's anything Green Bay can do to stop us. I don't think there's anything Tampa Bay can do to stop us. And then, like I say, I firmly believe that if we unleash, the RPO game, that would be a place to do it. Would be against Baltimore in a Super Bowl. How fitting would that be if Brock ran the ball down the Ravens' throat? That would be pretty awesome.
I guess if the one narrative, right? And I don't think Kyle is afraid of this narrative. I'm sure that he's not. But the game that you're referencing, where the Niners don't throw the ball almost at all, the narrative coming out of that game was, at least in some instances, some of the naysayers were like, how come he doesn't trust Jimmy? Right? That was what some of the people were saying. And I think rightfully so, we were all thinking the same thing, but we weren't saying, why doesn't he trust Jimmy? We were saying he doesn't have to trust Jimmy in this game, and that's why he did that. There will be people saying Kyle does not trust Brock in that same way if they were to do that. And again, Kyle's the wrong person to throw that narrative at, because he's like, I don't give an F, man. But it could be something of a confidence shaker for Brock Purdy to feel like, oh yeah, the coach kind of did not really let me do some of the things that we've been doing all year. So I do think it is going to be more of a mixed attack, but I do think it's going to be a CMC game, like you said. And Shelvin, I forgot to put his quote up, but Shelvin as well said, in his vision, CMC, huge game for CMC. So, it's a great script to win a game, and just the way that they do it. Time of possession, beat up the other team. Second half, the other team is just really tired, and you kind of run away with it. So, last question for you on this preview, and it is a little bit of slightly kind of like worrying. As fans, we sit there and we worry more than we praise our team, especially if you are really studying your team and you're critical of your team. But if you were on Kyle Shanahan's coaching staff, what thing causes you to text him while he's asleep with a 911 on the text? Is there one thing right now?
We got to figure out a way not to have 26 on the field, coach. we can't. we got to figure out some coverages that do not involve 26, because I know if I'm looking at the tape, there's like a big red bullseye on that dude, and I'm trying to isolate and get him in coverage every time I can, because he's just not good. I'm sorry. I know that he's Wilkes' guy, and I appreciate that, but yeah, I mean, to a lesser extent, I know Lenore and Thomas have given up plays, but that dude, he just, and he tackles well. So I mean, he really comes up and he forces, like in the run game. That's why that should probably be a safety more so than a nickel. But he's kind of small to be a safety, I guess. But yeah, we can't have him in coverage. I just think, especially I think a team like Green Bay, where they don't really have a number one, so they don't care if it's their fourth receiver. If their fourth receiver in a set is Wilkes or Dobbs or Reed, they don't care. I mean,
Yeah.
they like that matchup because you know they're it's. I think that's the way just overall. I think that's where a lot of teams in the NFL are going to go, and they're just going to try to get a bunch of young dudes and try to field. You might not be able to get like a Devontae Adams or a Stephon Diggs, but if you can get three or four next tier guys,
Hmm.
it can help your quarterback out. I think that's something that the Kansas City really needs to look into because they just can't afford top of the market guys, but you just draft like three or four of them and hope that two or three of them hit. So yeah, that would be my concern is Isaiah Oliver. And then I guess a secondary concern would be with Farrell out, who is going to be who's going to be the guy that sets the edge in the run game. Is that Beal? Is that does Young just fill in that position? Is it Gregory or who is it? Who's the one that, because he has been quietly very strong for us in the run game, and he's going to be missed. So it's going to be interesting to see how we um, make up for his loss, because that is a concern. Aaron Jones is on a heater. He can run the rock. So I know Armstead is back, and I hope that means that he's back and like somewhere close to 100%, because that'll help.
Yep.
Because we have been kind of a sieve there in the middle with him gone. So that'll be nice. It'll be nice to see in those first few reps how he is acclimating, and hopefully he can just stay out there and give us something.
I would say I have two as well. The first one is I would just text Kyle and just be like, just want to double check. We still got, about 14 hours, 15 hours. You sure you don't just want to give Robbie Gould one call? Just see if he's
Has
been
he been
staying in
kicking?
shape. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, no disrespect to the young fella, but I mean, again, I just continue to say he never 18 years never missed a postseason kick. So you
Yeah.
can say what you want about his length, and the kickoffs got pretty poor
Yeah.
there at the end. I get that part, but Robbie was money, and in so many of these clutch situations. We used to joke about him being our MVP, but in a lot of cases, man, he was the guy who got us points when we needed it. So this is a tough spot to put Moody in. And like I've said to many people before, I think what was even worse to me about
Hmm.
that last game of the season, it was not only did he not perform well on the field, this whole Mickey Mouse shit of not talking to the media
Yeah.
afterwards
Yeah.
was really kind of bush league. I thought you can't stink it up and then not face the music. I mean, come on, man. You got to be better than that.
The other thing that I might, I'm asleep and then my eyes just open and I'm like, oh, I got to text Kyle.
Sit bolt upright.
I know Jair Brown has played pretty well in his rookie season. He's coming off of injury. He said specifically that he used the time to watch tape of every snap that he played because he wanted to see his feet. He wanted to see his positioning and all that stuff. So that's awesome. Even when he was not able to play, he was shadowing guys in practice and getting as close to the field as possible. All that stuff is great. I love it. You know, he's doing the work. But I still worry that Green Bay, their offense, a lot of what they want to do has him in mind. And I don't know, you know, I'm that's up to DB coaches and stuff to figure, you know, it's up to Steve, that's up to Wilkes to figure it out. But we like to blitz a lot. And my fear is that the targeting is going to be, you mentioned Isaiah Oliver, you know, that is definitely one target. I think another target could be trying to set up Jair Brown, the rookie, to in some situations that he may not be comfortable with.
Make him make plays. I mean, that would be a smart strategy. I concur. I think, you know, from their standpoint, that would be a good strategy. Is to see. Let's see if he can figure it out and make plays. And because all you got to do is beat him once. So yeah, that's I think that is I think both of those are very good ones. And I don't know, man. I'm kind of a weirdo. How many hours you think Kyle's gonna get tonight? How many hours of sleep? Do you think he's gonna you think he's like an 8 hour guy um or like more like a 4 hour guy?
So I was listening to this podcast. No, it's actually a book, an Audible book on the oral history of HBO.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was, I want to say it was like during Game of Thrones when they were filming Game of Thrones. It was one of their big series where they had to get it done in like a short period of time. And all the people who were working on that show, like they started to, you know, they started to talk about how much sleep they got by like, was it a good 5, you know, because they didn't have it, they if they were sleeping they weren't working. And
Mm-hmm.
that and I sort of think about coaches in the same way. You know, I don't think Kyle is checking the you know, he's not sleeping with his Apple Watch and using the sleep app and making sure he gets like 2.5 hours of deep sleep. Like he's not that guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's not like Brock. He's not putting the, you know, putting
Mm-mm.
the blue blocker glasses on. He's like going hard, drinking coffee until the end, and then when he's exhausted, and then he tries to sleep as little as humanly possible for him to function the next day. Like I can't imagine he's necessarily the best partner during this part of
Mm-mm.
the season.
Well, he's already copped to the fact that, you know, during like times like this he doesn't go home. It's that he's in the office, that he sleeps in his office. So like you say, you know, he probably just goes until he can't anymore,
Yeah,
and he goes and gets a couple hours and then goes back to whatever wherever their war room is or whatever.
yeah.
It's a real, you know, people talk about the amount of money those dudes make, but I mean the hours are insane,
Oh yeah.
and you know his assistants don't make nearly as much as he do. But I, I know we all know the feeling of if your boss is there, you better be there. I mean, you can't if your boss is working it like that. You can't be talking about at 6 o'clock. Well, I'm out. I'll see y'all tomorrow.
Oh
Um,
yeah. I work
you
for a
know,
startup.
if he's
I know
working,
that energy.
if he's working, everybody's working. So yeah. So I think you're 100% right. I don't think he's I don't think he's getting too many. If he did not get his sleep score is not great on his Fitbit or
Yeah.
whatever. So yeah, especially during
Imagine he
this
comes
time of
into
year.
the stadium tomorrow and he's like, "Oh yeah, whoo, got 12 hours of sleep, baby. I'm ready to go." Like you're like, "What? Aren't you supposed to be, you know, going, you know, having the candlelight is the only thing left cuz all the lights got turned out on you?" But
Exactly. Exactly.
so we're recording this on Friday night. I imagine the podcast folks won't listen to this until Saturday morning or afternoon before the game. So I want to tell all the fans who are getting ready for tomorrow, you know, win, lose, or draw, you got to come with whatever the grub is, whatever your favorite lucky gear is. Like, I think I'm going Jerry jersey. I got to go Jerry. Jerry, I feel like Jerry's going to bring us some good luck. And my just whatever the food, like let's get some, let's get a little bit of habits going. Let's get some, let's get some process going. Wear your
Mhm.
lucky socks, everything, because we got to do everything to in our minds so that we feel like we're doing everything. I sometimes believe in that stuff. If you think it's hogwash, it can definitely be hogwash, but I think it's fun. I think that's part of the fun of being a sports fan is my wife going like, wait, you wore that shirt the last game? And I'm like, yeah, because they
They
won.
won.
I'm
Mhm.
wearing
And
it
I'm
again.
mhm.
So
And until they lose.
yeah, exactly. So
Exactly.
whatever you need to do in your process, make sure you do it starting this
I've
week.
got a really good feeling about this team, you guys. I think that um I guess I had good feelings about the 19 team too, I guess, but I don't know, man. I just think this is our year to finally get that six. And the way we're set up, I think if we can get this one, I think we could probably repeat. And I guess that might be a little too
Mm.
soon, but I think that we're set up to be able to bring this group all back and make one more run at it.
Hmm.
And I think we get that championship bump, which I believe is a real thing. I think once a team wins it, um, I've seen it with my Dubs. It changes you as a
Hmm.
team. Once you're champions, if you're dogs before, you're really dogs. I think when guys like Warner and Bosa and those type of guys, once they get a ring, man, I think they're really gonna be a problem. Brock, what you gonna tell Brock once he got a championship ring?
Hmm.
You can't tell him nothing now. Um,
No,
oh yeah.
he's gonna be I see a lot of the memes of the other teams who think Brock is kind of weak and not a strong guy or anything, and they go, "Oh, we're not losing to the guy who walks into the stadium wearing gray sweatpants." Brock's gonna get some sweatpants deals if they win the Super Bowl.
We're
He's
gonna have to hook up, Shelvin. I'm coming down. I I was thinking about it, and then um, Mina and Dominique Foxworth are doing a show with Jimmy Kimmel, so that like pushed me over the top. It's like Thursday, so I'll be down there probably Wednesday of that week all the way through. So we should definitely hook up, and I'll buy you a drink, and we can do a selfie for the gram,
yeah, man.
as the kids say.
Yeah, Shelvin's question was, is it a jinx to reserve a room in Vegas for midweek festivities? And I think he means Super Bowl week. So
Hmm.
it's not a jinx. It means you're a confident fan and you believe in your football team. So, and
Yep.
plus even, you like being out there for Vegas and Phoenix. What is that about? What's the drivage
Like
there?
4 hours, three
Okay.
or 4 hours.
Okay, that's not too bad. All right, so we'll be back on Sunday evening. I have a UFC event to cover for another podcast after the 49ers game. So, Niners Packers, and then I got to shoot down the street to my gym, my UFC gym. They're showing the fights for members. And so I'll watch the end of that show, and then I'll have to come back and record a podcast. And so,
You got a quick preview for Strickland Duplessis?
oh man, I just want to know, is Strickland a gimmick, or is he really like Cro-Magnon man? Like, like it's kind of ridiculous the stuff that he's
How
spewing.
does Duplessis make 185?
He's
He
so
is
big.
he is huge.
Yeah,
I think it's like camera tricks. He's a monster.
yeah.
So that's always interesting to me, to how these guys manipulate the weight like that. So yeah, I don't know. I just think he's kind of big for Strickland. So we'll see. I think it's gonna be and new, but
Me,
um
I that's what I would guess too. Though Strickland is the favorite, so
mhm.
um, and I think some of it may just have to do with Duplessis coming off the foot injury, and is he 100% healthy, and I'm sure there's a little bit of swag that you get from beating Adesanya, that maybe you gain in confidence there. So, it's not going to be a giant show. It's not going to be like a big pay-per-view event because there's a lot of fighters that you have to be kind of a hardcore UFC fan to even know who some of these folks are.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I still enjoy Fight Week. It's a rare occasion that I watch a UFC show and I'm like, man, I just wasted 3 hours. It's usually a good event. So,
yeah,
but yeah,
I'm gonna try to be down there for 300. That's International Fight Week too.
That's gonna be crazy.
I'm going down there for that. But yeah, I enjoy I'm not really an expert, but I really enjoy watching the fight.
It's why boxing and UFC can be very casual fan sports because everybody understands fighting. Like it's just it's just a conflict thing. Like everyone has dreamed of two-piecing somebody who they don't like, but we don't do that because we're adults and you don't do that to people, but you think of it in your mind, you kind of know what the go-to combo is that you would go with. But yeah, so it'll be good. But Sunday night, probably
is that podcast going to be in the feed or is that somewhere else?
It's good. It's going to be somewhere else. I'm doing it for a different website and subscription website.
Okay.
But I can make it available for you if you want it. And then
I'll listen to all your stuff.
and then Sunday we'll come back here about this time as we recorded this live show, 9 p.m. and we'll recap the game. We'll recap the week of the NFL, and if the 49ers come out on top, it'll be a nice little preview for the next week. So, because of how the Niners didn't play, we did a little bit differently with the preview. So this was fun. We don't usually do a lot of preview stuff. We're mostly very reactive and like initial impressions to the game. So this was a lot of fun. But so for Rod, I'm Double G. We'll see you Sunday night at 9 p.m. Pacific on YouTube and in the podcast feed the very next day. As always, if you can hit that subscribe button, if you are not yet subscribed, and also hit that little like button on the show, that helps us with whatever this YouTube algorithm is that I've never figured out, even been close to figuring out. I think that helps us. So anyway, all right. Thanks everybody for checking us out and for listening. See you when we see you. Peace out.